PG from NIT Tiruchirappalli, and now he's doing his PhD from IIT Madras. And he is handling physical chemistry for you. And today we are studying from chemical kinetics. And as you know, the chemical kinetics is very important topic uh, as we look at the exams or the practical applications. So, Sachin sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sadhu. Am I audible, right?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. So we can just start the physical chemistry session by today. The main thing is that before entering into the topic, I can just briefly give an introduction to in which style we are going to present throughout our series of lectures. I won't take much time for that because it's running short of time already. And in within 3 sessions, we have to finish this very vast topic like chemical kinetics. And I'll share my screen. If it's visible, you just tell me an update. Dr. Zabil, is it clear now?
Yeah, it's visible. Yeah, chemical
Yeah.
kinetics.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yeah. So before starting this, another one more announcement I forgot to mention. That's about the Google Drive. So we uploaded the lecture note of chemical kinetics in the Google Drive, so you can download it from the and the lecture note of GOC and some extra notes of GOC too. So please have a look on that. Yeah, that's it. So please continue.
you. Okay. Whoever, so Dr. Zabil already mentioned, whoever using mobile phone, please put it in the landscape mode so that you can view it in the full screen manner. Okay. Before entering into the chemical kinetics, there are 2 3 approaches in which there is a difference between the common student and a student having an extensive preparation for an entrance. You might be knowing that there are 3 levels of questions in a particular entrance. One, very simple question. Two, yeah, you are into the subject, so they want to test that particular thing. Three, purely conceptual. If you don't know the conceptual part of the particular topic, you won't be able to answer the question. So we might be dealing all three. Not even me. Every professor out here or every tutor out here will be dealing with all 3 parts. That particular style will give you an extra advantage over the other students. So just an example for what I mean. In chemical kinetics itself, you all might be heard of steady state approximation, and every time we attempt the chemical kinetics, you might be hearing applying steady state approximation in a particular intermediate or particular molecule. Find the answer for this particular chemical kinetical rearrangement or reaction. So, what is the concept of steady state approximation? Most of us don't know exactly. So, I'm just providing a simplest way to explain that. So, if I say a reactant A is converting into a product P to an intermediate I, we all know that when we draw the reaction pattern, we can say the reactant A will be keep on decreasing and the product will be keep on increasing, and at a point it will become a saturated mode and it's continue like this. What is the case of intermediate? Intermediate will first concentration will first increases, then it got decreases. It's like a, so this is the general concept of a reaction. If I say there is a K1 here, K2 here as rate constants, we can see that why the intermediate is formed, the rate of reaction is gradually increasing, and while the product is completely formed, the intermediate also completely converted into product. So that's what this particular graph shows you. This is the general case of a reaction. General case of a reaction. But when we apply steady state approximation, what happens? We are assuming that the intermediate formed is immediately converted into product. Whatever intermediate is formed is immediately converted into product. It is converting here to here, immediately it's so there is a constant concentration of intermediate throughout the system, or rate of change of intermediate over time is 0. That is why we are putting di by dt equal to 0 during a steady state approximation problem. If you don't know this concept, you will be missing a very important question that's being asked in JAM, GATE, and even Central University Hyderabad exam once. Represent the graph showing the steady state approximation condition. So, and the reaction, they will provide a reaction or an equation like this. So whoever is having a partial knowledge about it will be going for a graph where it provided a reactant like this, a product like this, and an intermediate concentration like this. But whoever knows the concept of steady state approximation really well, since I'm rubbing all this off because it's just an introduction, I'm not into the topic yet. Okay. Steady state approximation is that the reactant concentration will be keep on decreasing, and it reaches a, and the product concentration will be keep on increasing, and it reaches a saturation mode. And what happens to an intermediate? It's first formed, but its concentration will be constant afterwards. So this will be the graph of an intermediate during the steady state approximation. This question repeatedly asked in many of the major entrances for MSc, or even they're asking like, if I provide an equilibrium reaction over here, K minus 1. Another conceptual question what they were asking is like, what might be the condition for a steady state approximation state for this particular reaction? And they have provided options like K2 greater than K minus 1, K minus 1 greater than K2, K1, K minus 1 equal to K2. Like that, so many options they have given. So if you don't know the proper concept, you cannot guess what happens in this state. As I have rightly mentioned here, whatever intermediate is formed is converting into product without any delay. So there is no chance that this intermediate go back to this state when there is an steady state approximation. So K2 will be very much higher than K minus 1. If K minus 1 is keep on happening, that is intermediate is converted into reactant again, and there is an equilibrium developed between these two states A and I. That condition is called pre-equilibrium. That is another condition where we can study the reaction rates very properly. So if you don't know the depth of the concept, it's like you are knowing nothing. So we will try to provide the depth in the concepts throughout our lecture series. Even in other topics that we are dealing here, like chemical thermodynamics, there are certain areas which is sure shot. In entrance, we will say it's like a sure shot. Say Maxwell relationship, you might be knowing that there are four relationships, so it's very difficult to mug up all those things. So if you just know two relationship, you can easily clear the Maxwell relationship. Like if I say V by S equal to T by P, that's it. I can solve it out for Maxwell relation from here. Say there is a relationship between these two. Dou V by dou S at constant pressure is equal to dou T by dou P at constant entropy. You later check it out whether I am right or wrong. If you simply know this relation, you can provide all these. I can provide you all Maxwell equation, all four of them. And there is we have to take the reciprocal of this, and I can create the next equation. And slightly rearranging this mode, I can provide next equation. So if you simply know one relation, you can get the other four relations. Maxwell relation is a question that is what it's a short question. There is no question paper which excludes the presence of Maxwell equation. So what I am trying to say is we are only into the second class, and we will be teaching very basic things in the first class. Even in general organic chemistry or in physical chemistry, everything we'll be teaching a very basic things in the first introduction class, which doesn't mean that this is the style of classes going to happen in the coming days. So you must be having a very fruitful and very conceptual kind of approach throughout our lecture series, and there is a lot of there in their arsenal, all those professors. So you keep in touch and take your decision wisely. Then we are moving into our topic, chemical kinetics. From here onwards, we can uh, move into the core part. I am basically splitting this topic into three parts. First of all, today we are dealing with very basic things. Everyone will know what I'm going to take today, but still there are some people who want clarity in that part, so it's for them. Next class we will be taking some theories regarding this Linman mechanism, enzyme catalysis, polymerization reaction, and reaction approaching equilibrium, like that. And afterwards we will be dealing with the mechanistic part, like Eyring equation, collision theory, even adsorption isotherms, like that portion we will be dealing. Okay, first of all, there are so many factors affecting a particular reaction. We can say temperature, concentration of reactant, concentration of reactant, nature of reactant, nature of reactant, catalyst, pressure, mainly in the case of gaseous reactions. Next, solvent effect may, and there are many. Whatever we are focusing here is these cases. Temperature will have a definite influence on the reaction rate, as you know. The nature of reactant and the concentration of reactant is very important. Even in equilibrium reactions, you know how to shift this equilibrium using a particular concentration or nature of the reactant. And catalyst, you might be knowing very well how a catalyst could help the reaction without involving directly, but it reduces the activation energy barrier and provides an easy path for a reaction to proceed. Pressure, as I have rightly mentioned, it's mainly for the gaseous reactants than other solid or liquid reactant. And solvent, effective solvent means which solvent the reaction is going to happen. The interaction between the reactant and the solvent is having a very vital part during the procedure of the reaction. So we might be focusing all these areas, most of these areas during our lecture. So before that, we have to know what is the basic rate of the reaction. What you mean by rate of the reaction? Rate of the reaction. What happens is, as I have already drawn here, when a reactant A converted into product, if you imagine the concentration of reactant is keep on decreasing and the concentration of product keep on increasing. So if you want to avoid the confusion, I can say A plus B gives product. Then only some might feel there is a reaction happening. Okay, these two are reacting and one product is forming. Okay. So what happens here is that the concentration of the reaction, this is a concentration, this is time. The concentration of the reactant were here, it's maximum, it's keep on decreasing gradually, gradually, and reaching a nullified state. What is the case of product? As the concentration of the reactant is decreasing, the product concentration is gradually increasing, and when all the reactant is gets reacted, it's going to a saturated state. So basically we can say what you mean by a rate of the reaction is that decrease in the concentration of reactant or increase in the concentration of product. In a system, if you consider a system or in a area where the reaction is happening, the decrease in concentration of the reactant or the increase in the concentration of product can be considered as the rate of the reaction. If we can take a general reaction, we can take a general reaction A plus B gives C plus D. I can write rate as minus dA by dt, which is equal to minus dB by dt. This is decrease in concentration of reactant. B means square bracket, everything everyone will be knowing. Still, square bracket if I provide and write a product means it's a concentration. The decrease in concentration of reactant, which might be equal to dC by dt, which is equal to dD by dt. So basically, this is a general reaction. We all know the general reaction might not be happening in 1 mole, 1 mole, 1 mole, 1 mole. There will be coefficients. So if I say A moles of A react with B moles of B, provide C moles of C and D moles of D, then there is a slight change in the arrangement of the reaction. That is, A moles of A plus B moles of B will provide C moles of C plus D moles of D. Then reaction rate can be written as minus 1 by A dA by dt equal to minus 1 by B dB by dt equal to 1 by C dC by dt equal to 1 by D dd by dt. I hope you all might be knowing this very well. So still, if you have any confusion regarding this, the coefficient should be having a very vital role. It is like AA plus BB gives CC plus AD. So minus 1 by A dA by dt equal to minus 1 by B dB by dt, 1 by C dC by dt, 1 by D dd by dt. Don't ever consider this as a uh, simple thing, because so many questions even in CUSAT, 2-3 questions out of this basis were being asked several times, even in Central University entrances. So many times questions have appeared in this basis. So this is a very important equation. So just write this question. I might have to solve all this problem in classes, but still a sample question, please note it down and uh, just do it in 2 minutes. Very easy question. For the reaction of formation of NH3, the rate of formation of NH3 is found to be 2.4 into 10 raised to minus 4 mole liter raised to minus 1 second raised to minus 1. Calculate rate of disappearance of N2 and H2. Okay, I know most of you will be knowing, so I'm not wasting time. First and foremost thing is that you have to know how the reaction is happening. This is a basic reaction of formation of ammonia. All might be knowing this is Haber process. N2 plus 3H2 gives 2NH3. N2 plus 2H2 gives 2NH3. So whatever equation we have provided, rate can be written as minus dN2 by dt equal to minus 1 by 3 dH2 by dt, sorry, yeah, equal to 1 by 2, don't have space here, which is equal to 1 by 2 minus 1 by 3 dH2 by dt equal to 1 by 2 dNH3 by dt. What is provided to you is the rate of formation of ammonia. Rate of formation of ammonia. There is an important point. There is an important point. Rate of formation of ammonia is given by 2.4 into 10 raised to minus 4. That thing is dNH2 divided by dt, not 1 by 2 into dNH2 by dt. That's the main problem. That's the main mistake everyone generally makes. That is, some might think 1 by 2 into dNH2 by dt is 2.4 into 10 raised to minus 1. That's why I put this problem. This is wrong. Whatever provided in the question is this one, This one is 2.4 into 10 raised to minus 4. Therefore, we can easily find out that 1 by 2 into dn2 by dt is 1.2 into 10 raised to minus 4. 1.2 into 10 raised to minus 4, which is equal to minus dn2 by dt and minus 1 by 3 into dh2 by dt, which is equal to minus dn2 by dt, 1.2 into 10 raised to minus 4, and minus 1 by 3 into dh2 by dt, 1.2 into 10 raised to minus 4. From here, automatically we get the rate of disappearance of N2. So to find out the rate of disappearance of H2, that is this part, we have to transfer this 3 to this side, which is 3.6 into 10 raised to minus 4. I think this problem is very clear to all of you. Since I'm practicing only one problem, I'm taking some time over here. One more time, N2 plus 3H2 gives 2NH3 is the basic. If I calculate the rate out of it, minus dN2 by dt minus 1 by 3 dH2 by dt minus 1 by 2 dNH2 by dt. Sorry, 1 by 2 dNH2 by dt. Whatever provided is not 1 by 2 into dNH2 by dt, only this part is being provided. So to find the whole part, we have to multiply it with 1 by 2. So while equating this part with other two, we will get like this, and from here we can easily find out the solution. I think this one is very clear. Next question, please have a note of it. These are the keywords. The reaction is given. What you have to find, these are the keywords. And following data is in the next page. If you are done with the question, just don't write the whole question. Just write the reaction and find and concentration of decay, formation of N2O5. Sorry, decrease in concentration of N2O5 and formation of O2. That's it. This is the data provided. This is a different style of question. That's why I provided this one too. And so many similar examples are in your worksheet, and Dr. Sabil will be sharing to you through Google Drive. So you can have a practice of that. Okay, from next class onwards, I will ask any of our registered student to do this problem for me. But from today, I'll provide you the method. I only will provide the method. Rest you go and try in your home. Just we want to find out d minus dN2O5 by dt. We are provided with a table having the concentration of N2O5 at different time intervals. This is the concentration at 500 second and this is the concentration at 800 second. What do you mean by dN2O5? Change in concentration of N2O5. What do you mean by dt? Over change in time. That's what in a time period from 800 second to 500 second, that is dt. What is happening? What's happening? 1.1 is changed to 1.5, 1.1 and 1.5 into 10 raised to minus 3. From here, we will get the decrease in concentration of N2O5 and equating that to the oxygen part minus 2 into TN2 by DO2 by dt, we will get the answer for this question. I think it's clear. Over 2 periods of time, we have given the concentration. So this difference will give you dN2O5. This difference will give you dt. So one part is over. Equating with this right equation, we will get the exact value of the required. Sorry. Okay, moving on. We are coming to the next important area, rate law. It's a different approach towards finding a rate of the reaction. As we know, based on the reactant concentration alone, if we take the same BB gives some product. People put forward a method to find out the rate of the reaction using this particular equation, that is rate is proportional to concentration of A raised to X and concentration of B raised to Y. This X may or may not be equal to A. This A. This can be equal to A or this cannot be equal to A. Similarly, this Y may or may not be equal to B. This is what the rate law says. If I say N2 plus 3H2 gives 2NH3, a reaction, if I find out the rate law of that particular reaction, the coefficient above the concentration may or may not be equal to 1 for N2 and may or may not be equal to 3 for H2. So rate is equal to K into A raised to X, P raised to Y. This K is called rate constant. So the dependence of a reaction towards a constituent particular reactants is being provided through rate law. So if we say rate equal to K into A raised to X, B raised to Y, order of the reaction can be written as X plus Y. Sometimes the reaction won't be depending on any one of the reactant at all, or some other cases may happen. It may be depending upon in a not in a whole number way. So this order can be zero or fractional or anything. So basically, if we observe the reaction, we will get an idea about what's happening really. This is like theoretically we are predicting the dependency of the reaction towards a particular reactant or a group of reactants. So don't get complicated thinking all this. What we want is that rate is proportional to a raised to x and b raised to y. This x may or may not be equal to a. This y may or may not be equal to b. And we are solving this proportionality constant with a rate constant k, and the sum of the coefficients x plus y will provide you the order of the reaction. So next part is unit of rate and rate constant. As we all know, rate is nothing but concentration upon time. As we know, decrease in concentration of reactant over a particular time, or increasing concentration of product over a particular time. So it's basically concentration divided by time. Concentration we generally express in molarity, molality, normality, formality, everything. So I am basically taking moles per liter divided by time, say second. So I can say the unit of rate as mole liter raised to -1 second raised to -1. Mole liter raised to -1 second raised to -1. All right. Or you all might be knowing liter is nothing but decimeter cube. A particular slide is coming to have a fresh look into these conversions, so I'm not going deep here. So we can say mole liter raised to -1 second raised to -1 as mole decimeter cube raised to -1 second raised to -1. This is the unit of rate. This is the unit of rate. Next comes rate constant. Next comes rate constant. We know that rate constant. We know that rate equal to rate constant into a raised to x, b raised to y, etc. So it depends upon the order of the reaction for sure, because rate is having a unit, we all know that. So based on which order the reaction is happening, how this is depends upon the value x and y, this whole reaction. So based on that only we can provide the unit of a rate constant. So to make the procedure simple and not too complicated, we have provided a general equation for that, for to find out the unit of a rate constant. Mole raised to 1 minus n, liter raised to n minus 1 second inverse, where n is the order. Mole raised to 1 minus n, liter raised to n minus 1 second inverse, where n is the order of the reaction. We can put n equal to 0. Then what happens? It becomes mole liter raised to -1 second raised to -1. If I put n equal to 1, mole raised to 0 liter raised to 0 second inverse, only the unit will be second inverse. I believe you are writing all this down. I'm not writing in the board. If n equal to 2, mole raised to -1 liter second inverse. So it can be fractional order also. So whatever be the order, you just put it here in this equation, you will get the unit done. Don't make this very simple thing, because simply once in GATE 2017 they have asked a question for a reaction. The rate constant is like 1.7 into 10 raised to -6 or something, second inverse, and provided these quantities, find the unit of the find the order of the reaction. If you are intelligent enough, you just look at the unit, you find second inverse, order is 1, khatam, that's it. Otherwise you might be thinking about the half-life. From out of that half-life, how we can find out the order backwards. But if you simply know the unit itself, you can find out the order. So you might be thorough with the units of the first order, second order, zeroth order, every order reactions. Moving on, unit conversion. This is very important thing. As I rightly mentioned, liter is equivalent to decimeter cube. You might be having a bit confusion how to take and how to convert into certain units. If I am providing my rate constant in molecule inverse centimeter cube, how will you convert into mole inverse decimeter cube? That is the standard SI unit, right? Here you see it's like mole decimeter cube raised to -1, second raised to -1. So if it's like centimeter cube and molecule raised to -1, what you will do? So you have to convert it into an SI unit. So this is a chart for that conversion. You might be knowing, if I say in terms of length, millimeter, centimeter, decimeter, meter, deca, hectometer, kilometer. So while starting from left, we can say 10 millimeter equal to 1 centimeter, 10 centimeter equal to 1 decimeter, 10 decimeter is 1 meter, 10 meter a decameter, 10 decameter a hectometer, and 10 hectometer is a kilometer. So from directly you want to go from meter to kilometer, you might be knowing 10 raised to 3 meter equal to 1 kilometer. So like that you can go here to here 10, here to here 10, here to here 10, 10 cube. Like that you can go backwards also. So basically their values I have been provided here. 10 raised to -3 is millimeter in concern with meter, 10 raised to -2 in concern with meter, -1 in concern with regards to meter. So this conversion of units is very much important. It's being asked in one of the question I have provided to you here. Just write down this question. This is very important. This you should be doing and providing the answer now. Anyone should give me the answer, then I will continue, because it's very important. The rate constant for the reaction is this much. Convert it into this unit. From here onwards, while you submitting the worksheet, assignment, exam, everything, unit should be perfect. If you got a if you solve a hectic problem and give me an answer without unit, I will just simply mark it as wrong, because if you don't have unit, it don't have sense. So should be very vigilant about the conversion. Anybody? So the basic thing is that we have to convert centimeter cube molecule inverse second inverse to decimeter cube mole inverse second inverse, right? So second inverse is already common in both cases, so you don't need to worry about it. First we have to convert centimeter cube into decimeter cube. How many centimeters is a decimeter? You go back to that table, centi to deci, left to right. 10 raised to minus 1 decimeter is a centimeter. 1 centimeter equal to 10 raised to minus 1 decimeter. Therefore, 1 centimeter cube equal to 10 raised to minus 3 decimeter cube. We are taking cube in both sides. That's it. So this factor is ready. Here 1 centimeter cube is there, though. So we have, if you want to convert it into decimeter cube, we can replace it by 10 raised to minus 3 decimeter cube. So second factor is molecule inverse per molecule. This is done for a particular molecule. If I want it to be done for a mole, what I will do? Per molecule to per mole conversion, we will multiply this equation by 6.023 into 10 raised to 22. Whatever unit I have provided, x 2.4 to 10 raised to minus 3 per molecule. This is for a single molecule. If I want to use the term per mole, this should be for 6.023 into 10 raised to 23 atoms, or that much species. So I had to multiply the equation with that value. So this conversion can be done while multiplying this value 8 into 10 raised to minus 15 with, anybody unmuted? Okay. With 10 raised to minus 3 and 6.023 into 10 raised to 23. I think it's clear. I know there are still people thinking that molecule inverse to mole inverse, so should be multiply this with 6.023 or divide. Am I right? So this is an explanation for you guys who is having that thought a mathematical way. 1 mole is 6.023 into 10 raised to 23 molecules. 1 molecule is 1 by 6.023 into 10 raised to 23 mole. 1 molecule inverse is 1 by 1 molecule. When I say 1 by 6.023, it will go up, and this is 6.023 into 10 raised to 23 mole inverse. So this kind of conversion, you should be very vigilant. These types of problem generally asked in all kind of entrances, so you should be practicing more and more with regards to this. Okay, moving on to the next level of our topic, that is finding the equations for different order reactions. We mainly focuses on zero order, first order, second and third. We will be providing an equation. All of you might be knowing this derivation. You see, reactant A is converted into product. First, we are dealing with a zero order reaction. Zero order means what? Rate is equal to K into A raised to 0. It's not at all depending upon the reactant, it's depending upon other conditions. So we can write through rate law, rate equal to K into, sorry, I am rubbed it, K into A raised to 0. And the first procedure we have followed in the to find out the rate is minus dA by dt, decreasing concentration of reactant. So we are comparing both. Here there is an A raised to 0, which is nothing but 1. To whomever have this confusion, we provide an A raised to 0, which is nothing but 1. So integrating both sides, you all know this derivation, so I'm not going deep into it. Minus A equal to KT plus C. So when time is equal to 0, time equal to 0 means we haven't started the reaction. So the initial concentration is remain as such. So I can provide, I can say when time equal to 0, the initial concentration of the reactant is A0. So when time equal to 0 means this term will disappear. C becomes minus A0. While we substitute that here, we will get the equation for a zeroth order reaction as, you can say Kr equal to K equal to A0 minus A divided by T. A0 minus A divided by T. To plot a graph between A and T is very important, because in many entrances they have asked this graph as such. So while we are plotting a graph, we should be very vigilant that y-axis should contain the variable reactant concentration and the x-axis should contain time. Accordingly, you should arrange this equation. Every cases, zero order, first order, fraction order, every cases you should arrange in a such a way that the variable should be in the y-axis and the x-axis should be the time. So if I plot, if I plot this particular graph, y equal to mx plus c graph, we'll get plot like this. Time on the x-axis, A on the y-axis. There's a negative slope. M means slope. Slope equal to minus KR. Minus KR. Or KR means I just simply took R. You can write K. There is no problem in that. K is nothing but KR. There should be a negative slope like this, and the y-intercept is nothing but A0, which is the initial concentration. So this is a graph for a zeroth order reaction. Don't worry if it's not neat, we will be providing the material writing all these things, so don't worry about that. Basically we want to know three things: what is the equation, what is the y-axis and x-axis, what is the slope, and what is the y-intercept. Is it clear? If at all you don't know the derivation, it's fine. You concentrate on this part. From here, this is the equation. Okay. Next is the concept of half-life. We all know that when the concentration, initial concentration is broken down into half of that starting value, we will provide a time called half-life time. We'll be getting a half-life period of that particular thing. If copper is initially 1 gram, is decanted, decreased into half of this initial value, that time is called half-life period. So basically what happens is when t equal to t half, a equal to a0 by 2. When t equal to t half, a equal to a0 by 2. So t half for a zeroth order reaction. T half for a zeroth order reaction is given by a0 by 2k. Just substituting this fact into the previous equation. See this equation. We will be, this is equation 1. We will be putting our condition to this equation number 1, and we are getting this value. So these are very important for problems. Be sure. Similarly, very similar fashion, we are doing the for the first order reaction. Very similar, nothing is there. Simply changing k a raised to 0 to k a raised to 1. You see here, first step, we all know what's happening. Second step, just put it here, and this will come here. So while integrating, we should be very vigilant that if we integrate this particular part, we will get minus dA by A. While we integrating, we will get minus log A, minus 1 by A dA, we can say. So the integral of this particular part is minus log A equal to KT plus C. Similar to the condition that we have dealt with in the last case, when t equal to 0, A equal to A naught, initial concentration. So if we apply that condition here, C will becomes minus ln A naught, minus ln A naught. That's what being provided here. So to plot a graph, we have to make sure that this value comes on the y part, this is the slope, and this is the y-intercept. So if we plot a graph, ln A versus t, if we plot a graph ln A versus t, we will get a similar graph with y-intercept being ln A naught. Each and everything what we are providing here is a question. One time they have asked what is the axis of this graph. By simply showing this graph, assume it to be a first order reaction. What is the axis of this graph? In the zero order, for the zero order reaction, they have asked the same question. What is the slope of this particular graph? assuming it to be zero order, what is the slope of this graph? What is the intercept of this graph? Zero order, first order, similar, everything is similar, shape and everything is similar, just axis and y-intercept is different. So you should not be getting confused while seeing these two graphs. And for first order reaction, there is one more graph that I'm providing from here. Just have a look into this equation. This is our equation, ln A minus ln A0 equal to minus KT. This is the equation that we got from the derivation. We all know ln A minus ln B is ln A by B. ln A minus ln B is ln A by B. So ln A minus ln A naught is minus KT, which means ln A by A naught equal to minus KT. We all know that if you take log on both sides, exponential factor will come on the right side. So basically what is the equation is A equal to A naught e raised to minus KT, which means A is exponentially decreasing on the basis of t. When time increases, A is decreasing exponentially. When time increases, A is decreasing exponentially. This is the graph. When I provide A to T graph, its style is entirely different. When I provide ln A to T graph, it's like a straight line having negative slope of minus kr and intercept ln A0. I think these all things are very clear for you. Next step is half-life. Half-life. This is the basic equation, kRt equal to ln A0 by A. kRt equal to ln A0 by A. Some might have confusion. Here I have provided ln A by A naught equal to minus kRt. Here it is ln A0 by A equal to kRt, because it's interchanging of sign, ln A minus B, ln B minus A. Nothing new. Okay. So we all know when t equal to t half, A equal to A0 by 2. That is, initial concentration is reduced into half. If I put that in the equation, we will get t half equal to ln 2 by kr. ln 2 has a value 0.693. Therefore, t half equal to 0.693 divided by kr. I think everyone is clear. Everything is clear. So next is very important step. These equations we can easily find out through derivations for a zeroth order reaction, for a first order reaction. If you don't want to mug it up, you can just do a derivation easily and you will get the data very easily. But what about a reaction of order having 2 or greater than 2? So many entrances have asked for the half-life or what is the equation of the reaction for a particular reaction having an order greater than or equal to 2. So we will be providing you a shortcut to find out the value of the reaction, equation of the reaction, and also T half. You see, for a reaction having order greater than or equal to 2, we can say a general equation Kr into T equal to 1 by n minus 1 into 1 by a raised to n minus 1 divided by 1 by a0 raised to n minus 1. This is the equation of that particular order reaction. Don't get confused that I am in some places I am taking Kr and some places I am taking K. This is basically rate constant. Since it's a standard that we write it as Kr, I am using it. I am used to use that. Even if I write K also, you must realize that it's similar to Kr. It's no change between those two. Okay, come back to our point. If n is greater than or equal to 2, from 2 onwards, we can write a general equation for the reaction as KRT equal to 1 by n minus 1 into 1 by a raised to n minus 1 minus 1 by a0 raised to n minus 1, where n is the order of the reaction. Where n is the order of the reaction. Say I put n equal to 2, KRT equal to 1 by 2 minus 1 into 1 by a raised to 2 minus 1 minus 1 by a0 raised to 2 minus 1, 1. So 1 by a minus 1 by a0. This is the equation for second order reaction. If I want to draw a graph, what will I do? I will take 1 by a that side and 1 by a0 minus KRT. That graph I'll show you. KRT equal to 1 by a minus 1 by a naught. Okay. I say 1 by a, put the concentration. Okay. 1 by a0 plus KRT. You will get a graph like y m x c. Based on this, you can draw a graph for a second order reaction. They will ask like sentence, what is the shape of a graph of a second order reaction if we plot it between 1 by a and t? Straight line with positive slope, straight line with negative slope, exponential, none of the above. You should be able to answer.
Positive slope.
So, yeah, correct. You should be able to answer all these things because it's not simply about mugging up all these things. It's about applying this thing to a paper that's being provided to you. Okay, so my point is that if I write an equation like this, 1 by n minus 1, 1 by a0 raised to n minus 1 by a raised to n minus 1 minus 1 by a0 raised to n minus 1, you should be able to find out the equation from 2 to above. Say n equal to 3. Anyone? If I put n equal to 3, what is the equation? What is the simplest graph I can plot from this equation? And what might be the slope? Just simply put this equation KRT equal to 1 by n minus 1, 1 by 2, 1 by a raised to n minus 1, a square minus 1 by a0 square. So if you want to apply for higher orders also, there is chance. Coming back to half-life. Half-life. This is a very important part. So many question papers were fully filled with this kind of questions to find out the half-life of a third order reaction provided these things, or for a second order reaction provided these things. You should be memorizing this equation. There is no other way. T half equal to 2 raised to n minus 1 minus 1 divided by n minus 1 a0 raised to n minus 1 into k. I know it's a bit tricky, but while practice you will get easily. 2 raised to n minus 1 minus 1 divided by n minus 1 into a0 raised to n minus 1 into kr. Okay. If I put n equal to 2, t half equal to 2 raised to n minus 1, 2 raised to 2 minus 1 minus 1 divided by 2 minus 1 a0 raised to 2 minus 1 into kr. What you will get? 1 by 2 minus 1 is 1, a0 into kr. 1 by a0 into kr. If I put n equal to 3, t half equal to 2 raised to 3 minus 1, 2 square minus 1, 3 minus 1, a0 raised to 3 minus 1 into kr. You can say 3 by 2 into a0 square kr. I'll give a little task that write 0 order, first order, second order, third order, even fourth is also fine. Fourth order, t half. T half. Every t half you find out and write, and find their dependence with initial concentration A0. For example, for a third order, it's inversely proportional to 1 by A square, A0 square. See here. For a second order reaction, it's inversely proportional to 1 by A naught. So similarly, you find out those factors and come into a conclusion how this T half is being related with initial concentration. This is a task for the next class. I'll be asking any one of you, and you should be providing me the answer. How T half is related to initial concentration, ascending in the ascending order, descending order, from 0 to 4 or 4 to 0. How it's being related. Okay. So these two equations, this one for half-life and this one for the overall reaction. Very important. First trick that I have provided to you. So you should be very vigilant while appearing for the exam. Next concept is for time constant. Time constant. You all know what you mean by half-life. Half-life is the time when the initial concentration is 1 by 2 of the, the concentration is 1 by 2 of the initial concentration. Similarly, T becomes tau. T becomes tau, which is called time constant, when the initial concentration is changed to 1 by eth of the initial concentration. At a time t, the concentration is changed into 1 by eth of the initial concentration. Or I can say, when A is converted into A0 by E, we can convert time into time constant. This is being asked in one of the entrances. That's why I'm providing this point. Next 2-3 points is very simple points. Just you need to remember. That's it. See here, this is the equation of the first order reaction. When I provide concentration where the initial concentration is changed to A0 by E, we will get time is converted into tau, which is called a time constant. Okay, therefore I'll get time constant as 1 by kr into ln e. Ln e we all know this is nothing but 1. Time constant is basically 1 by rate constant. Time constant, if you don't want to remember all these factors, just avoid all those. Just remember time constant is nothing but 1 by rate constant. Okay. 2 more points, I will wind up the session. We have got 5 more minutes, I think. First concept is reaction approaching equilibrium. Reaction approaching equilibrium. If I say A in equilibrium with B, B in equilibrium with C, and this is K1, K minus 1, K2, K minus 2. This all should be small k's. I can find out the equilibrium constant, K, capital K, by K1 by K minus 1 into K2 by K minus 2, etc. Basically, if I take this fraction, equilibrium constant is K1 by K minus 1, K forward by K backward. If it's in a continuous process, this is, for this fraction, this is K2 by K minus 2. So what happens is, if it's in a chain of equilibrium reactions and the rate constants are being provided, the total equilibrium constant for that particular reaction can be found out by multiplying all the forward rate constants divided by all the backward rate constants. I think you got my point. This is very important with regards to the coming concepts. So that's what I'm providing it here. So make a note out of it. When a reaction approaching equilibrium, if you are provided with the right constants, for a single reaction, it's like K1 by K minus 1. If it's in a series of reaction, K1 by K minus 1 into K2 by K minus 2 into K3 by K minus 3. K minus 3 I'm denoting because it's a backward reaction. It's just a representation. It doesn't mean that it's having a minus rate. All right, keep this concept in mind. There should be application for this one. Next up, relaxation method. I'm saying this word just because it's being asked 2 times in one JAM entrance and in one HCU entrance, I think. The question was just like, which of these following is an example for a relaxation method? That's all. But if you don't know what's a relaxation method, it's like it's difficult to identify the relaxation method out of this. When a reacting system in equilibrium, say this is a space in equilibrium, very innocently working over here. It's being subject to an adequate variation in some physical parameter. Say someone is calmly sitting somewhere and simply I'm going and changing their parameter or disturbing them to find out what happens if I disturb this parameter. What is the effect of that change in that particular system? To study that, we will be changing any of the parameters. Say it may be temperature or it may be any concentration. While we change that parameter, that system will reach into a new equilibrium. While we change that parameter, that system will appear to will find a new equilibria and a new equilibrium constant. Say this system, I have increased the temperature. So if it's moving like this in a concentration versus time graph in equilibrium state, I have increased the temperature and the reaction rate will gradually increase and it will find a new equilibrium pattern. So basically what happens is that the changed parameter is providing a new state and we can compare these two states and study the behavior of this whole reaction. This is what is being done in a relaxation method. Very important relaxation method is a temperature jump method. The 2 times these questions being asked, in both these times, the option provided contains temperature jump method because it is the most commonly used relaxation method. It's nothing but when an equilibrium was established, the established equilibrium is being disturbed by changing any of the parameters and attained a new equilibrium after this process, a new equilibrium is attained, and comparing these two states, we can study the behavior of the whole system. So a method adopted for these studies is called temperature jump method. So with this, I'm concluding this session. I think I'm in the right pace. I have planned to finish up to steady state approximation that I have given an introduction in the first 5 minutes. So from next class onwards, I can by next class I can finish the other conceptual part like Arrhenius equation, enzyme catalysis, polymerization techniques, Linman-H load mechanism, and then move on to theories and finish it on the third class. Okay, if you have any doubts, any queries regarding whatever we have dealt, you can write to me. I think from next class onwards, we can provide the mail IDs and numbers if necessary. And the worksheet, Dr. Sabil will be providing you the drive, and you can have a look into it. And if you have any doubt, you can ask me. Is that okay, sir?
Yeah.
I have stopped the screen sharing. You can wind up the session, Dr. Sabil, if you have any extra instructions.
Yeah. So if you have any questions that we can discuss, or you can send directly to Sachin sir also, you know, through WhatsApp or through mail. And we will upload all the materials in the Google Drive, so you can download from that. And we upload more questions. See, this kinetics is purely problem based, so you have to do more problems. And we uploaded the same thing in the Google Drive. Well,
Yeah,
so yeah, and
so
another
one
thing.
more thing I can add.
Yeah, please continue.
Uh, yeah, apart from these class notes, we will be providing a writing notes of mine. Or is that correct? That
Yes,
material also we might be providing to the registered students. So
yes, that already
they
uploaded. Yeah,
yeah, okay, then no problem. You can have a look into it.
yeah. And tomorrow it's uh, atomic structures. Uh, so Jibin sir will handle it. I'll send the link, all the details. And importantly, today you have exam. I will send the link, the instructions, all those things. So please follow that. As I said earlier, the link will available for 1 day or 24 hours. So you can choose your time and you can write it. So the question pattern is objective type. 10 questions from GOC, General Organic Chemistry, 10 questions from kinetics, the topics as here Sachin sir discussed, and 5 questions from basic English. And you have 25 minutes to write the answers. I mean, it's objective, ABCD, that's it. Yeah. Well, that's it. Anything else to note, Sachin, or shall we close?
Yeah, that's it. I think there is so many problems in the worksheet. As Sabil sir rightly mentioned, kinetics is all about solving problems. If at all I know every theories, no use. The types of problems may be different. So I think I have provided around 50 problems in that worksheet. So 29
Yeah,
in
and
this session, I think. Yeah,
yeah, and
you
one more.
should be doing it in seriously.
Yeah, and one more thing in about the physical chemistry, especially kinetics, thermodynamics, all those things. You must have some basic maths knowledge. So if you are very weak in maths, please contact us and we can arrange or we will give some recorded video for that and do more maths problems, simple integration, differentiation, or some very numerical thing. So it's very important as we talk about the physical, especially the kinetics. Kinetics is the major portion for the exams. So please prepare, please do as many as problems you can. And if you have any doubt while doing problems, please contact us or you can directly text to Sachin sir. Yeah, that's it. So we are closing here. Sachin, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.